Hey guys, another episode of Part Time Rambles. Today we're going to be talking about relationships in general and the history and acceptance of magic. We're going to go ahead and start off with relationships, and here today we have Tyan
Hey, what's up?
and Kyle.
Hey, how's it going?
And so before we get into this relationship things, we're going to go ahead and talk about how we feel about relationships in general. I'm going to go and throw that to you, Tyan.
All right, as far as relationships go, um, essentially they're how one person relates to another person, and through this relation, we have different rules and how we expect the other person to act because of the different titles we put upon it, whether they be a friend to us or a girlfriend, and based on that relationship comes a perspective guide. And yeah, I can pass that on to Tadpole.
Yeah, I mean, going any which way, like, I guess, God, I don't know, talking about people who like change when they're around certain people. Um, I don't know, it's really weird. We talk every once in a while about the infamous Billy, and everything. A lot of people know him. You probably don't know him, and it's good that you probably don't know him. But this kid, this guy or whatever, he's almost like when you were hanging out with him or playing games with him because we play games with everybody. When you go to play games with him, he has this very kind of like elitist attitude, and because like he was a decent player and stuff, he expected you almost to act a certain way when you were with him. And so like our relationships with him, like be it like me, Brandon, Kyle, like whoever, like it's always been this really sour relationship, but he always expected us kind of to act a certain way, and then when we didn't, he always, you got kind of pissed at us and either left or whatever. But yeah, I don't know when it, yeah, if, like if you were to take my relationship with, I don't know, say like Andrew. Andrew's another one in our group. If I was to speak with Andrew, like I kind of have to be a little bit softer on Andrew because Andrew doesn't take constructive criticism like I don't know, like some other people would,
Super
you know.
well, yeah.
So, but I don't know. It's really weird. There's just so many weird like expected attitudes between like the relationships, kind of like between friends and shit, and it's just like we had a cousin, my cousin, come in and play with everybody, and the way that he played games or his attitude towards games with like relationship to like everybody in PTK, like he became like pretty hostile, and it was because I mean they're those Xbox era kids that are used to acting a certain way,
Yeah.
and everyone here, when we started doing that, then it got pretty controversial. My cousin was trying to like ambush people on Twitch, and then um, he ended up really bad mouthing Andrew, and like they ended up getting banned from the server and stuff. And like it was really weird because he wanted me to kind of like back him up or conform. Me being his cousin, like, oh man, we're family and stuff. Like you should, you know, do
Hmm.
this. Well, in my family, when you're wrong, you're wrong. Like you need to accept your losses, and improve yourself. And he just had a tough time understanding that, and that sense is he was wrong, and people didn't see it the way he saw it. But now it's really weird. I've been in this awkward kind of situation where like I kind of want to play games with them as my cousin and everything, but like at the same time, he's done some douchey stuff to a lot of my friends, and like I don't know. It's really weird because he expected me to act a certain way. I don't know. I don't know if you guys are like pressured by anyone to like act a certain way or whatever. I don't know, just because you're like your relationship with them. So
Yeah, so when it comes to relationships for me, it's for the most part like I love when like the reason I'm friends with everybody in PTK is I mean I grew up with a lot of them and we all kind of like I think we have a similar mindset that we can all rally behind, and we're all very direct people. We're very like, okay, if you say something stupid, we're gonna call you out on it. We don't agree, we'll get mad at each other and yell it out. But there's never like a, you know, you get directly involved with somebody and you guys talk shit and then you guys just hate each other for the rest of the time. That's not what happened. You talk your shit, you get through it, and then next day everything's good. If no one holds grudges, and that's why I like this group. Now, when it comes to like outside of PTK, especially when we try to bring people in, like you said, you're I know exactly who you're talking about, both those people. And while they were both very passive aggressive and didn't like, and they, it's crazy to me because I have no problem with shit talk. You think I suck? You can go ahead and say that. You think I'm not good at something or you don't like me? Fine, but don't say it, and I have to hear it from somebody. And that was the biggest
Yeah.
problem we had with why those guys ended up getting banned, because at the end of the day, they'd play games with us, and then they'd go and talk shit outside the
Yeah.
server. And I think a
It's a
big
lot
problem,
of pussyfooting around.
and I think one of the biggest problems with that was because it's you get some people in the family, and you guys got caught in the middle. A lot of that information probably it probably would have stayed fine if that information wasn't passed on, but because there's people in the middle, that information was getting passed on. So like, once I found out, I it's I'm just gonna go crooked because to me I'm like, okay, well, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel, man. But we can have a talk, and everyone was like, oh, don't talk to him, don't talk. And I was like, okay, fine. And then I hear again from someone else that he's planning on coming on to our stuff, and trying to say trying to like you said ambush, but
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, like for the most part, relationships I think being direct is the best way to go. And again, when it comes to outside relationships, outside of like my main group, I'm very distant towards people, and it's very hard to get close to me unless like you're really like most of my friends are outgoing. So only like that's because I won't approach anyone. I'm really easy to get along with, and that's why I have I've kept my friends for so long. But I think the best thing you can ever do is just be an understanding person and be direct. If you have friends that are too sensitive or anything like that, sure you can accommodate it, but it gets to a point where it gets to this like stress point, and you gotta sometimes cut it off. I had a friend. We were best friend. I've known him since I moved here, and we were good for a while, but he would lie. He'd always say some backward shit, and like for the longest time, I was the only one who had his back. And then he came at me sideways. He was the kind of person he was manipulative, and like at the end of the day, like if you have a bad relationship with someone like that, you gotta cut it off. Like, and that's just how I
Yeah.
see it. Like, some
Like those
people,
red flag relationships, man. It's just one of those flags, dude. I don't know.
yeah. So my thing is if like you're in a relationship with someone and they've apologized and you've forgiven them, but they keep doing the same mistakes, it people always like, oh, you gave up on a friend. It's not giving up on a friend if that friend is using you, or they're not like. I'm not saying they have to change to fit how you see it, but if they're always becoming more of an issue than actually having your back, and you're doing more for them and they're not doing anything for you, it's a toxic relationship, and I think that's important to be able to point out. And now I think we're diving more into just like we've already gave our perception on relationships in general. Where do you guys want to really take this?
Oh, actually, yeah,
Yeah.
I had a perfect question because, because like as you're saying, everybody has their these certain expectations with relationships, and I think especially in our society we have an issue where we don't talk about it a whole lot. Instead we have titles like girlfriend, boyfriend, or significant other, or this or that, and then we expect a certain guideline with those titles, whether mother, father, brother, whatever. And if things don't meet that expectation in our head, we're like upset about it, but then like we don't explain why we're upset about it. But there's also times where like it seems like that should be an expectation for everybody. For example, I had a friend, or who I thought was a friend, and like we all went to the mall to hang out. And then our moms were like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." So we went all and hung out together by ourselves. We were younger in middle school, so it was like the cool thing, back then. Um, but he split from us to go. It was actually from me and Tyrell to go hang out with one of his girls, and we're like, cool, just like let us know. But then there's issues, and he would never text us, and then like it was this whole annoying thing. We're like, bro, you have to meet up with us. And then apparently we finally need to get picked up. He wasn't contacting us. Parents had to wait. They're all pissed. He already got picked up, so we didn't even need to pick him up. And there was this whole issue, and now I think it was Tyrell's parents, so his parents were pissed at us. And it's like, bro, you put us in this like awkward situation, and like I have to now feel like a terrible son to my
Yeah,
friend's mom. And it's like, should I have to tell my friend that? Like, should I have to go to my friend and be like, yo, you shouldn't ditch us to the mall from the mall and not say anything to us? Or should that be a normal, if someone is considered my friend, that is a general expectation?
yeah, and
Yeah, I don't know if you want to jump in or not. I have one, you know, a buddy of mine just recently, like I of course label him as my best friend, or I have for like I don't know. I've known him forever, so but this dude, he's been kind of blowing me off like back to back to back. So I don't know, like if you want to talk about that or where you're wanting to go, but
Just
uh,
in general, kind of hear from each of y'all what some things you consider what you think are general, oh,
expectations
everybody,
should know.
yeah,
Okay.
expectations for friends and should know. Because then if I hear from you, oh, this is what you think is general, and some of our stuff matches up and some of our stuff doesn't, we can kind of already see from just the three of us, like where there's a perceptual gap.
Okay.
well, I I don't know. I guess so. So if it comes to friendships or like anyone in general, I guess like there's the loyalty factor, right? Like
Mhm.
there's a certain amount, like if you've known somebody for so long, or like depending on what they mean to you, like there's a certain loyalty factor that kind of kicks in, and like you should have each other's back. But I think you should only have each other's back up until a point where you're not starting to jump into bullshit, you know? Like like if you have a buddy that's, saying like, "Oh yeah, I can do this and that," and showboating and shit, and you're supposed to be a loyal friend and everything, and of course like your buddy's just, dragging you into a position you don't want to be in, because he's, acting a certain way or doing a certain thing. So it's like I mean, to a fault, like yeah, have your buddies back or like whoever you have a relationship with, like be loyal to them, have their back. But with, like if your buddy starts doing some dumb
What's the
shit,
allowable stupidity range? What is the most trouble you would get in for an average friend, and then a good friend, and then your best friend?
I guess so. I guess personally, um, it depends on who you are. Like so, this my buddy that I was just talking about, how he's been kind of blowing me off or whatever. Um, he's a guy I've known forever, and he's like a really good friend. He's pretty much my best friend. So that guy, like, because of our ties together, he's more like a brother, and I would definitely probably, die for him. I mean, having been in the military too, I was literally with friends, facing those odds. So it's like, it really depends on the person, in the military, a friend or a lot of my friends that would be average friends, um, I die for them because I know they're going to die for me. It's kind of this returned expected favor. But if we were talking like PTK, right? Everybody at PTK I generally like, but I mean I'm not dying for Andrew. I'm not dying for Kyle or Brandon. Like I love you guys, but right at this moment, like I'm not dying for you guys for no reason, especially like I
Yeah,
mean,
you die
Yeah.
for hero complex or
yeah,
something. But
it's it's got to be beyond a reasonable like I don't know situation to be put in. It's like I have
yeah,
good buddies and stuff, but there's that line, and that line, I guess, I don't know, for me personally, stems on, would you do the same for me?
Okay. So to piggyback on that, that's my criteria is exactly the same. That's why earlier when I said if there's something that you're doing for someone that they wouldn't do for you, then that person is um I might not just get rid of them as a friend, but like that's a mental note. Like, okay,
Yeah,
you won't do that for me, so I'm not gonna do that for you. But I kind of shelve them. Like, okay, we're friends. I might hang out with you, but we're not. You're not someone that like I tell anything personal to. You're not like all these things. And to put context into what Tyne was saying earlier about the mall. So, um, like for example, we were only so that whole ditch at the mall thing. We were only got into that situation and because of him. And you know, it wasn't the fact that we got in trouble that was the problem, because we got in trouble because we were lying at first. We were lying to protect him because he was supposed he was only allowed to be there because of us, and he wasn't allowed to go see anybody, and he wasn't supposed to go run off. So when they asked us what happened, me and Tyne had to make up a lie. But what
oh,
happened was he made up a lie that threw us straight under the bus. Like it's one we lied to keep him out of trouble, and he lied to get us in trouble. So then they like stacked. So then when that happened, we were like, "No, that's bullshit. All right, it's time to tell the truth." Because he all he had to say was like keep up with what we were saying, and he threw us under the bus for no reason. And then he for some reason thought that like we were supposed to like just take the hit for him for no reason. And then
yeah. All you had to do was shut up.
that same friend, now like another thing, like again, this was like one of my closest friends for the longest time. Um, we again the mall, a little older this time, like probably I think maybe even out of high school, if not maybe senior year, junior year or something. Uh, we're hanging out. He called me up to hang out. I'm like okay, and I find out like he's like looking around. So what happened was he had people that told him that if they saw him in public, they're gonna kick his ass. He didn't tell like I'm down to protect the homie, you know, but he didn't tell me that. So now if I would have went out and randomly some people came up, I would have to deal with it, and I would not even know what's going on. And to me, like that's not something you like keep from your friend. It's like he was using me at that point. I was like, okay.
That's fucked.
So.
Then we got his ass kicked anyway.
Yeah, but um, yeah. So like basically like so for I guess for um you, what was the three? It was average friend, best friend. What was the third one?
Like your greatest friend, like your what was average friend, good friend, best friend.
So like average friend, my average friend is just like basically an associate for me for by my standards. An average friend is just someone I see every once in a while. I might run into him. You know, if we really want to hang out, we see each other like, oh, let's go do this, and it's like, oh, okay. A good friend are my good friends are basically like my best friends because they're the people I really have like a middle thing. You're either like close to me or you're not, basically. And like if we're okay, if you're an average friend, you're just like someone I keep on the outside. And everything else is like I have a very small group of people that I trust to tell things. So then a good friend is someone that like okay, they feel comfortable with telling me these things. So then I feel comfortable telling me these things. They're able to keep secrets from me, for me, not from me. They're able to if I need help or like financial situation or anything, they got my back. Same thing, I got their back. Like as long as you would do the same for me, and you're not expecting like some type of like no one ever expects to be owed. It's just like it just happened. It's just a thing. And when it's like that, that's what I think is what makes people like super great friends.
You
Yeah,
can hear me, right?
yeah, I hear.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you know, I don't want to cut you off, but you know who's really surprising as like a friend that I didn't expect would be a good friend, like really weirdly, uh, was is Marcus.
You.
So like my history with Marcus, I don't really know Marcus all that much. And we always, of course, play games and had a mutual respect. But it's I didn't expect, a little while back you were there too. Same thing. I was having problem with that C++ class, and I was kind of freaking out about it and all that stuff. And he was there for quite a few nights, helping me through different concepts and walking me through things and shit. And it was actually surprising because I mean nobody else really does that sort of thing, and like normal people don't go out of their way usually, to help people with something like that. And it's interesting, and it was surprising too. Like you were there, and you guys are prepared to help me take a test and stuff and all that. It was pretty cool, but there are some people I know that wouldn't have done the same thing uh, like you guys did. So it's just I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I really like our group, and I'm very skeptical whenever we add anyone into our group because I don't want it to like. I mean, usually when people try to add into our group and they don't fit, we kick them out pretty fast. But
They
but
get isolated. They get
so
shunned.
so yeah, pretty much. But Marcus is probably not even probably definitely the nicest out of all of us. Um,
Mm.
he's a big
Pro
troll,
tag.
and like you might think, like he's a big troll, and like people who don't really know him that well might think he's low key toxic, but he's honestly the nicest guy I've ever met, and he'll do anything for people he cares about, and
Yeah,
it doesn't even
he's
necessarily have to be like he just thinks he should do those things. I don't know, but um, he's one of the people I've known also for a super long time, and like there's he like I don't know if you've ever done. I think in an earlier podcast actually with JT, we did scenarios, and like so Marcus is just one of those people. So like you're in a group of friends, and we always talk about apocalypse stuff. If they're like, who would you make leader? And I almost guarantee you, it'd be almost unanimously Marcus because he's just like he's the type of person where he's like he's super nice, but he's for no bullshit. He'll explain to you why you're wrong and why it should go this way, and he's a good mediator, but he's also like I think a good leader, and he doesn't want to admit it. Just how it is.
Exactly. The fact that he doesn't want to admit it is part of how you know.
But yeah, I agree with what you were saying completely. Yeah,
it catches you off guard. I mean, so like I guess solely, I guess for me that'd be reason enough to I guess take a bullet for Marcus. You know, uh, I don't know. I guess for me it's a little more simple. Someone does you right. Keeps the respect and everything kind of like in place, well mannered. Like when it comes to like dealing with certain shit or situations like that, like it's definitely something that's more mature and not like seen as like often through like a lot of other people. So it's like it was really weird. It just catches you off guard because there aren't a lot of people like that out there. I
yeah,
don't know.
Hmm.
It's simple enough for me. Yeah, he's done right by me. So I'd probably, even though I guess we're not close, so he'd be an average friend, but I guess it was something like that as far as like, I'd have his back or whatever he needed it, uh, just because of how he conducts himself.
yeah.
Uh,
And
Hmm.
so I want to jump into a more of the intimate relationships. But before we do that, I have kind of it's not along the same track, but I think it needs to be addressed before we hit the intimate things. So like to die for a friend or like okay, the type of friend where you will okay, and by the way, audience, disclaimer, all this stuff is fantasy scenario what I'm about to say. None of this stuff is portrayed to real life. Don't get your panties in a bunch.
Fantasy. He dreams about
But
it.
but what I'm saying is basically, you know how everyone's like, okay, man, if I need you to help me hide a body, or like I need you to, or like they're like asking you to commit a crime with them, or like
Uh-huh.
you gotta die for them. What kind of friend, what kind of friend and what kind of expectations does that friend have? Where you're like, yeah, obviously the like, yeah, I'm gonna do it for the homie. Obviously, it depends on what they did and why they did it. I feel like that's a
It's
big
a huge
it's a
factor.
huge thing. Even no matter how close you are, if someone did something wrong, you're not going to help. But if something you can perceive as like a mistake, what kind of expectations you have on that person where you would like rob a bank with the homie? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, like, are you saying what level would they have to be for me,
Like
or just like,
what have they done for you, or what like how like what kind of
ooh,
relationship? What is the expectations on that person to be able to like be loyal to that to like that's loyal to a fault. If you're going to
yeah,
commit, yeah.
you would have to be my best friend or one of my best friends or higher. Like the people that I consider my inner circle and the ones that so I'm similar to Tyrell in that regard where my average friends are my associates where it's just this neutral kind of symbiotic relationship where I'm not going to be negative towards these people, but if we have time to hang out or whatever, it's chilling. And I don't know why people hear this and they tend to be like, "Oh, you're just like terrible to think that way." And I'm like, we all have other things to do in our lives. It seems draining to have to like focus on caring about those people when they would also drop me just as fast when their life, like as we're talking about intimacy, right? With those people, if they get married or if they go down a track where that intimacy is going to pull away their time and energy, I'm going to be cut off. As an average associate friend, they're not going to talk or interact with me that much, maybe a couple months, and then they'll message me again. So it's not worth that energy to feel so upset about it.
Yeah.
And and then as far as what was the question again? The intimacy.
Well, I was just saying we were addressing before the intimacy because I was just
Oh,
saying
what they
what.
have to. Oh, I see. What they'd have to do for that level. Like they would have to be the type of person where to be in the inner circle and not to be an associate or just like a good friend. I would have to know for sure that when you're behind that door and that cop's asking you a question, that we would not even get to that point because I'm not rolling with any dumb people. We don't even get there. There's no cop catching us. We don't go to jail. That's
Yeah,
not what we
yeah. Obviously, we're already planning for success. You know, we already know we're not getting caught. But
do.
So,
yeah,
Exactly.
so, so for me, I'm already pretty fucked up, but there's conditions for me. So let's just put it into perspective. If you two guys were hanging out with me, and say we were really really good friends, like we'd known each other forever, we're thick as thieves, whatever,
Mhm.
fucking things like that. Uh, with the way that I'm built right now is, I say we kill somebody. Okay, now we created this special relationship between us three. But for me, if I was, say, a murderer or wanted to kill people or whatever, some shit like that, um, as soon as I killed someone and you were there with me, you were now on that list. It's your decision on whether or not you get your name
Hmm.
crossed off.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's where I stand, right? Um, and when
I
it
mean,
comes,
that's true. That's
it,
fair.
it's all for one for all. I expect
Mhm.
the same in return, because if we all have each other's lives in each other's hands now. So if one of y'all is gonna fuck it up,
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to
yeah,
the
just
cops, so if
we're
it takes ending you,
yeah.
yeah.
We
So
gotta
like
end it.
we've already killed once.
Yeah.
And it's, you're already in this
That
really
line's
fucked
crossed.
situation. Yeah, you're now in this very careful relationship where you either need to dive deeper with them, right? You're now in it forever, or the betrayal happens quick. Like, and it just depends on which way you got to go. Intimate relationships. This woman, if you're a man, this woman better have done some shit for you, known you, done some shit. She's got to have been a real like companion. She's got, I'm not talking about like, oh yeah, I've been a girlfriend from anywhere for like a month to a year. Like that chick, you don't even fully know who she is yet. Um, let alone if you kill somebody, she's now probably gonna either have to marry your ass or she's dead too. You know, it's just it's one of those things. It's that's kind of how it works. But I guess as far as choosing someone, yeah, there's two people I could think of right now that I would be pretty sure that they could keep a complete secret like that on that level, and vice versa. Uh, one being my girlfriend, and then also one being my dad. So I know if one of the like either one of them like killed somebody, I'd be like, of course I'd be like, what the fuck? Why? Like what the fuck happened? But at the same time, I'd be like, like, was it a good reason? I mean,
Yeah. See,
like what
That's a weird
happened?
bit.
see,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. It has to be there has to be a good reason, like you were attacked first, or like there, But
Self defense. Say it's
yeah,
self defense.
but the
Well,
problem with that is like even with the good like a good reason like that, it's also like okay, but if it's a good reason, then why don't we just go to the cops? And like so it'd have to be like it all so like whatever the good reason is, there has to be another circumstance where like yeah there was a good reason, but I also had to do some there's something else going on there that I have to tell you about for you to fully understand why I made this bad decision. But there's a good reason, because
It was tough.
if it's self defense and you're still worried, but there's obviously something that happened that
We're
you
doing
just
yeah.
drugs.
are
We're
like,
doing
are
heroin.
like
Well, so here's where the fucked up part probably comes in. I mean, I think I'm pretty Dexter on this situation too. It's like
Ooh.
if you do, if someone were to do something, like say you went to McDonald's, motherfucker
Mhm.
fucked up your order. It's at one point, like, I mean, people snap all the time, right? And then that would be the final straw, and that's the first person they kill, right? Like this motherfucker, like even then I could understand. Like it sometimes maybe it depends. Like was that a good enough reason? Like
Was that
for
worth
me,
stopping?
it's like I guess if I was on that point of murdering someone, that wouldn't be off the table. Like if somebody just irked me, even if it was something small like that, I would fucking they'd be gone. But I
I,
don't know. As
I
far as relationships are concerned, they better be pretty tight.
to give an example of like in my head what would be a good reason is if someone is like threatening the people around you that you care about, and you've already gone to the police and they're not handling it, and you're like 100% sure this guy is going to do something, and the police will only do something after the guy does something, and you don't want to lose somebody. That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
only way I could see it's like I had to do it to keep the people around me safe. But that's
Yeah.
still like that's just like you rarely are anybody in that situation, right? So there's that. But I mean, we could kind of move on from this because we've kind of, we've kind of hit it. But now let's talk about intimate relationships and how we handle those. Any of you guys can take it.
I mean, I've had a relationship lasted me 13 years. Thought it was gonna last, forever. It was the whole started in high school type of thing. Uh, and we were together from the age of 14 to 26. All right, which I'm 30 now, so it's been quite a while. With her, God, yeah, I met her. freshman year of high school, and we were together, and she shaped my life or whatever, kind of, as it is now. Um, and it's like the relationship with her, she really kind of pushed me in one way. Is just like, I joined the military because of her in our relationship.
Mhm.
It got really, really bad, and I got in a really dark place, and perfect place to, possibly get offed. Kind of, it's a really dark place, but it made me join the military. Thankfully, I ended up enjoying the military a lot. Really turned me around, and of course, we ended up getting back together and dealing with everything. And she was in college and shit, and it went off and on, and we went through a whole bunch of shit. I mean, in a relationship with a girl, there's that baby scare every once in a while.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, you go through that. There's like engagement stuff, meeting the parents, going to this, going to that, birthdays, dances if you're in high school, like traveling cross country, back and forth for each other. We did all that, and it was pretty interesting for me. It's just like I don't know. It kind of makes you think that love isn't real. I don't know, because relationships can push you to a point like that where like that type of thing just doesn't seem real anymore. Which for an intimate relationship, one of the biggest things that you have to keep in mind is communication.
Mhm.
Like like we were talking about relationships before, where you need to be loyal and all this, and one of those things is communication. If you really want to be in that
Huge.
relationship, you guys, like, you literally have to talk about everything and anything. Weird shit, feelings, you have to be out in the open with fucking everything. And this girl, I thought we were pretty open with everything. She was, for quite a while, but then towards the end, when our relationship started to end and go sour, fucking,
Really comes out.
she, all of a sudden, these hidden problems started arising, like these things uh, that both of us were dealing with, and like ended up coming forward that it just, she was willing to throw 12 years together all away, um, for something that she decided not to communicate with me about. Uh, and she had plenty of time. Like, it was a small thing that occurred over time throughout a relationship. And what killed it is because she didn't communicate. She didn't talk to me and express to me things that I could have changed. So, like, easy things too. Um, but there was just no communication there. And now, I mean, I've been in a relationship with another girl, um, going on 3 years, and it's like, oh well, I mean, there's only a year's kind of time right there in between that I kind of bounced back, right? But it's like this new girl, like, for me in relationships, like, at that point with my intimate relationship of 12 years and all these things, like, I'd gone to war. We kind of grew up to each other, like, we hit puberty kind of like together, like, we were both each other's firsts for a lot of things, right?
Mhm.
But she was able to throw it away, which I you know I guess is a red flag all in itself, to get rid of her after she can't communicate. It's been crazy with the new girl that I've been with. It's just, I really hit home that, like, communication is key. Like, nonstop, like, you need to tell me this and that, and we need to talk, and there has to be this back and forth. If there's no communication, like, whatsoever, like, the whole relationship is doomed to fail even before it begins. And it's crazy that you don't find out that until it's either too late, or until you finally start getting, I guess, like, the proper reactions to the way, your relationship, like the way that it is now with Sarah, and this is my current girlfriend. Um,
Mhm.
the way that we communicate now is, it's like 20 to 30 times like better. It's just phenomenally better than my last relationship. And it's sad to say that it's this way, but it's the girl that I'm with now is younger than the girl I was with before, considerably younger, by about 6 years. So for her to be able to do something like this really kind of shows where the other girl's head was at, But in relationships, like it has to be communication. Communication is ongoing, not even in like sexually intimate relationships, but if you have a really good friend or
Oh,
something, you need to keep in contact, and there has to be this two-way interaction, road, street, like everything. Like if you happen to be in a different state, like I have been from my best friend that I've talked about, um, like you have to make the effort, man. Like it has to be one of those things. Like you have to plan one day to get together and play some games online or something here and there. And if it starts to falter on one side, it kind of it goes down this slippery slope where eventually then that relationship you used to value, um, which we call it, doesn't mean anything anymore.
no,
Yeah.
just gone.
To take that off, me and Tom's relationship is came to
Rock
California, didn't even hit
solid.
me up, so like. Yeah, the way you said
Oh.
rock stars and I just said that. No, no, no. All right.
How
On a serious note,
dare you?
I was just kidding. But on a serious note, um,
Huh.
you obviously Kyle, you have the most experience with relationships out of the three of us, and I probably have the least out of the three of us. But I just think that like for me, like I think maybe I might even expect too much. Like
Oh.
what? No, what? Why are you saying that? I don't know,
It's
cause
just because I know you, so it's funny to me.
yeah, I think I almost expect too much. Like, okay, in an intimate relationship, it's not that I almost know when I get with someone or like I'm talking to someone off the first couple interactions if like I'm going to like how would I say this? If I'm going to stick with like you know what I mean? Like if it's going to work a long period
They're
of time.
gonna make the cut.
And like I shouldn't like I feel like that's not entirely like correct what I'm doing, but it's like if I notice like there's things that I'm not going to like or like just fundamental like different like
Standards.
yeah, I don't know I'll end up just like pushing them away before it even starts because it's just
Well,
like to me it's a waste of time, but it's but I think it also comes from like I have a really good idea of what I want, and I'm not. I it's not that I want something perfect. That's far from the truth because I'm not. So I can't expect that. From But it's like, oh, I want someone who's able to be as open. Um, I want someone who's able to you know who's hardworking. Um, has like similar. We don't have to line on the thoughts or. I just want at least like fundamental stuff to work. And for a lot of my deal breakers, it's always like they either this is gonna sound weird. They even believe in too much of religion, or like it's like I just can't. I just don't feel it doesn't feel right. Like I don't trust them, it's always something weird. I just
it's
can't.
kind of a turn off.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. Like I can. It's just I feel like it's probably like partly my fault because I'm not letting them in, but I feel like they're also like uh, I'm it might be a big problem.
Well,
Yeah.
so when it comes to like relationships, I'll tell you, you can be blindsided, uh, but there are a lot of lovely women out there, lots. Um, and like in my time between my last girlfriend, the one that I was with for a very long time, and then the one I am now, like I, I found out that it's pretty easy to get into like another relationship or to get with another girl. Like there's so many girls out there that you can really connect with and are like good candidates. Like you said you weren't looking for something perfect, right? Like
Yeah.
of course you don't have to like you're not going to find perfect, but there are plenty of girls out there or guys, whatever you're into. I know you're, but I mean, girls, just like you'll find one. There's all different types, and there's so many, and you can get along with so many different types. But I don't want you to be blindsided by like just because they are a good candidate or something that would be, I guess, what you would call like, wifey material or something
Yeah.
like somebody that you could really make a life with. They do come along, and I
Turn to
mean,
scum.
there are times like things do change, and it's just sometimes that girl isn't no longer a candidate, and like it can be really blindsiding because you could be like, with how a guy thinks, like, oh, I get with this girl, and when you get with this girl, and you start really falling for that girl, almost subconsciously you start building this life that you want to like give to that girl, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And you have this internal plan and everything, and like you literally like dedicate yourself to kind of fulfilling this un unprovoked kind of like life that you want to have together. So like what you call it, you have this whole thing, and like at any point that whole like internal life type thing that you think you have with this perfect candidate could completely change in a blink of an eye. So it's by no fault that I can't say that it's like completely her or anything. Some of it was me, but definitely this girl. I thought she was the one. I really liked her, loved her, been with her for so long. Her family was cool. Like they all knew me. We all got along, and then just out of nowhere, it was, thrown to the wayside like a piece of trash almost. Like it was just really weird, but it can happen, and I've seen it happen to people different ways. Just a little while ago, my sister was struggling with her relationship and her husband, and of course they have they have two children together, and they of course like they were trying to buy a house together, and they had like this whole amazing thing going on where they were really coming together and making something happen. And like I was saying with communication, they didn't communicate, and they started getting really really on rocky ground. And it was because they didn't talk, and just out of one point, like my brother-in-law thought that my sister was no longer one of those candidates. Like she was doing something that was so detrimental to him that made him feel that way. And it's, of course, yeah, go out, find a girl. There's good, sometimes there's this amazing girl, you find one right out the bat. Those are the home run girls right there. One that you could just land off of the first time. But even if you don't make it that first time, there's gonna be another candidate. It's one of those cliche things that everyone always says, like, oh, there's so many more fish in the sea, and all this shit, and it's like it's actually insane. There's fucking tons of women. Like I could tell you when I went through that period of time between the previous girlfriend and the one I have now. I could tell you I would go to some of the same few bars and restaurants all in this little strip of area in Idaho. And I was like, I'd never seen the same woman twice in a fucking month, So it's like just from there, I was able to pull so many different women at different times, and each one to their own was great. Of course, there's little things here and there that you look for, and like why is this chick picking me up in a bar in the first place, like, but uh for me, I found out there was a ton, and I literally could choose which one I liked. And after I got all that out of the way, kind of rebounding, getting over my previous relationship, like getting my ego back up and all this other shit. Um, yeah, eventually found Sarah, and Sarah was kick ass. She wasn't like other girls for me. So you don't have to just settle for that one. Like you can be kind of selfish in what you want because I mean, girls are gonna do it. They're gonna do it their way anyway. Like they're looking all the time. Are you dating this guy that's got a fucking pickup truck? Well, fucking Jimmy's got a fucking Corvette down the thing. She gets with Jimmy. Jimmy's cool. Now fucking Jose's got a goddamn, Corvette or something. Like he's sick, Lamborghini, whatever. He steps it up. And she sees it. He's nice too, he's good looking, all that, and like people will trade up. So, and it's not just girls. I mean, guys will do that shit sometimes too. But the thing is, it's like when it comes to like choosing someone that you're gonna be with and have a relationship, uh, it's pretty fair for you to be picky. Like you should go for what you want to get. Like I don't know. There's so many out there. If like you find one, you test her out, shit. She passed all your tests, good. But if she don't, there's another one. Pick up another test, and it's. I guess it's pretty blatant or like layman or like
Yeah,
I
I,
don't
I
know.
I understand what you're saying because
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think my
I mean,
biggest
I
yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay, my biggest thing is I think I hate like I think the reason I thought it might be a problem is because things could be going good, but like I don't know if you guys have ever had this with any relationship. Things could be going fine and they're okay, but then like, and it's not that like I ever like I'm just like head like just diving in like okay this is the one that I want for the rest of my life, but like you said those thoughts come unprovoked, and then like I think that's when things like start to turn because it's kind of like oh no like for the rest of my life that's a big decision, and to me it's like also when like I feel like I'm a very decisive person. I don't like being I'm kind of I am kind of impatient with like waiting for decisions to be made. I so like so many at least in my I feel like in my area and where I'm at, I feel like I deal with so many indecisiveness and people don't know what they want. And I wish people knew what they wanted from relationships. Because there's been so many relationships where like, you know, I've gone to someone who goes say they want something stable, and in fact what they want is the exact opposite. And that just kills me. It just kills me. Like if there's no problem. By the way, there's no problem with having a relationship that's not exclusive people. Like if that's was communicated from the beginning, or if it was or when I say not exclusive, if it's like there's no problem with like that. I don't when I say these things, I'm not saying like oh I would never be with someone or blah blah blah. That's not the problem. The problem is when people relationships when you communicate and you say you want these things and then your actions show something different is when like for me for the relationship seems and
This is perfect because this is how I see relationships. To me, as far as intimacy goes, when it comes down to it, the relationship is your rules, your honesty, and as he was saying before, your communication. So if your main rules for a relationship are honesty and rules, then you have to communicate them. If you don't communicate them, everything gets fucked up. If you want to be an exclusive relationship, that's fine, but you have to say that it's exclusive. You have to communicate to each other what that means to each other. Don't just go, "Hey, do you want to be my girlfriend?" This is where we lay on the title too much. Like, "Oh my god, hey, you want to be my girlfriend?" They're like, "Sure." I don't tell her what that means. To me, a girlfriend, like Tyrell said, I have higher expectations for who I want my companion to be because I have really high expectations for myself. At the end of the day, that's what it is. I have thoroughly high expectations for myself. So when I look at my companion, I expect to see them as equal. So I have high expectations for them as well. Doesn't mean those are correct expectations, but I have those expectations and I test them just as I expect them to test me. Because if someone got upset, they're like, "Oh, you're just like testing me." I'm not saying I do it all the time. If you're obsessively testing, that's an issue, and it's getting in the way of actually enjoying your relationship. It's an issue. But like, there's certain things where it's like, okay, is this a flag? Like this for sure, I know I don't like in a relationship. So if she likes to do this, then it doesn't even matter at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then you,
If something's really like building off that, if something is really like bothering you, like you have to express that. You have to like in your relationship, if it's gonna be a good relationship, and like you're gonna have these titles for people, you know, it's like when it comes to interacting with that person, if someone that is supposed to be your companion that you have high standards for, like if they keep causing a situation that really makes you not feel good, like you need to bring that out. Like that needs to be put out in the open and get fixed. Otherwise,
Mhm.
like that could be a real problem to a lot of relationships. And like you're saying, like it has to just be communicated.
Yeah, it just has to be talked about because that's the whole point of being in a relationship, and that's why I think it's so funny. Because people are always like, "Oh, why do you have to like censor yourself when talking to other people and blah blah?" I believe in free speech. I think people should not be super sensitive. I get that, but at the same time, I think you should be mindful of what you say around strangers because you don't know what strangers have gone through. You don't know where they're coming from, just like they don't know where you're coming from. But if it's with your friends and it's with people you know, it's like we know each other and you should already understand where I'm coming from. If like I say this is bothering me or if I'm saying something and you're getting upset about it, like that to me is an issue. That to me is like why if I'm like, "Yo, please don't do that. I don't enjoy that." And you're like, "What the fuck's the issue?" I'm going to be like, "That's an issue." No, 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 no. Because I would do the same. If you're like, "Yo, stop, that's annoying," I'd be like, "Oh, my bad." That's it. I don't know. It's just simple respect in a relationship because you are equal beings. You're equal particles. Like you're saying, there's so many women or people that exist because we're just like atoms that exist, right? So you can always find another one to connect with or one that you connect in a certain way. You just have to actually go out there and try to connect and be open with each other. You don't see fucking hydrogen walking around trying to be oxygen. They just fucking be what they are, bro.
I, I like. I feel like for the most part, we've hit this, and I think Kyle's first explanation pretty much hit all of it. So I think it is all stems from communication. That's probably not probably is the most important thing. So when it comes to relationships in general, not just intimacy, like Kyle said earlier, um, it is all about communication. And as long as you guys are communicating, your problems should be getting talked about and solved. And even if they're not getting solved, you guys communicated that they're not getting solved. So then you can end the relationship before you waste your time trying to
Hmm.
continue something that's never going.
Yeah.
But um, this we've hit our. We got pretty deep on the relationship stuff. We hit our hour. Um, I'm surprised we actually didn't get to the magic
I mean,
stuff.
honestly, it was good. I think it was
Um,
still money
we
conversation and
can bring.
important.
I feel like we can shelve the maybe the magic gets its own separate segment. It gets that deep.
Honestly, especially
Yeah.
what we're talking about, I think it'd be pretty easy.
Down for a part two, I guess, if we continue.
Oh,
I don't know, tomorrow or whatever it is. I don't know.
I'm down.
Yeah, we can do
I'm
it
down
tomorrow. We
for
can.
15.
All right. So that was episode 5 of Part Time Rambles, guys. It's me, Tyrell, with my co-host Tyan and our guest Kyle. We're gonna be heading out. The episode will be up. Well, the next episode will come out in 2 weeks. So, thank you guys for checking us out. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Deuces.